I decided for this subject also because several years ago I did research into just only the Aboriginal heritage in the area, which was quite difficult because, as you can imagine, this section of South Australia has never been properly researched or just only touched. So to do research, in this very narrow area of interest, it was a bit complicated. And as a result, I've got a permanent exhibition which is called Singing to the Sharks at the Whyalla Maritime Museum. So if you come, unless you saw that, if you come on Sunday, please come and have a look. There are some more items which I don't touch, in this paper. So, all right, so I'll finally start. The origins of Spencer Gulf and Aboriginal heritage at Point Lowly. The landscape surrounding northern Spencer Gulf is one of the oldest on Earth. In a major portion of its shape, the geomorphology of the region didn't change much for millions of years. Also, apart from a few 20th century industrial structures, it is as attractive environment today as it appeared to the first humans who inhabited the area millennia ago. The northern Spencer Gulf can be specified as a triangle between coastal cities of Port Augusta in the north, Whyalla and Cowell in the west, and Port Pirie and Wallaroo in the east. The widest point in the south is at circa 40 kilometers, while the approximate north-south length of this triangle stretches to 160 kilometers. Spencer Gulf is a reverse estuary with two different marine environments inside, the sea in the north and the open ocean system in the south. The northern Spencer Gulf section is defined by wind-generated shortwave sea system. The narrow northern end of the Gulf at Port Augusta enters into a slightly depressed desert landscape, which is leading to the Great Salt Lakes, Lake Torrens and Lake Eyre. In the west, the immediate terrestrial environment is represented by plains encountering Kultana Ridge, with highest point at 305 meters above sea level. This north-south range formation breaks east towards the Gulf into a series of smaller plains and valleys within a number of distinctive granitic inselbergs of different geological age. The actual shoreline is then formed as a combination of coastal flats, pebble mounds, stony beaches and cliffs. The southern end of Kultana Ridge gradually continues underwater at Point Lowly, breaching then the sea bottom at 23 meters. The eastern part of the northern Spencer Gulf is formed by flat coastal plains and Flinders Ranges, with the highest point at 967 meters above sea level. The underwater profile of the northern Spencer Gulf resembles letter V, with the right arm lowered at a substantial angle. The deep sections of the seafloor copy the north-south western shore, while gradually rising towards the east, creating very shallow waters at the foothills of Flinders Ranges. The deepest point lies just outside Point Lowly Lighthouse. The narrowing of the Gulf at both Becky Point and Point Lowly creates strong local currents. The underwater profile and landscape and the general sea-like conditions of the water cause a phenomenon of a strong tidal current, while the water column tends to travel sideways from shore to shore at the same time. The area has 2 low tides and 2 high tides per lunar cycle, with regular Dodge tides. A Dodge tide means no or little tidal movement for a period of up to 2 days. Usually it's at half moon. Dodge tides apply only to Spencer Gulf, Gulf St. Vincent, Torres Strait and Gulf of California. Eyre Peninsula is part of a major tectonic province called Gawler Craton, and that includes York Peninsula, Gawler Ranges and central South Australia west of Lake Torrens, north to Whyalla and southwest to the outer edge of continental shelf, so it's quite big. The Craton was connected to Antarctica near today Commonwealth Bay before the breakup of the Gondwana continent. The oldest rocks in the wider Whyalla region are of Archean to Proterozoic age, which is 2,700 to 2,300 million years ago. They are overlain by iron-bearing sediments known as Hutchison Group, and that's, for example, the Middleback Range. The rocks in Middleback Range may have been originally formed near Cowell or even Port Lincoln and then moved north. The early middle Proterozoic era, which was 1,600 to 1,400 million years ago, brought a period of extensive volcanic activity just north of Whyalla at Corunna. Also, the volcanic Munabi Range, just southwest of Whyalla, was formed circa 1,615 million years ago. Apart from mainly volcanic base derived from a mantle source, rare heavy mineral beds are locally preserved, for example, inside of Mount Young. The position of the Corunna conglomerate and extrusions of the Gawler Range volcanics, granitic intrusion and local deformation represented the final events leading to the stabilization of the Gawler Craton. The Pandura Formation north of Whyalla is generally regarded as the final pulse of the intracontinental sedimentation on the Gawler Craton. It eventually overlies the Rupina volcanics and is overlain by Bida volcanics and Becky Point beds just where we live. Sedimentation at about 570 million years ago was largely controlled by faulting and rise and fall of sea levels, restricted to the northeast area between Whyalla and Port Augusta. During the Cainozoic era, 66 to 37 million years ago, fairly thin alluvial sediments containing a mixture of uraniferous lignates, marine sands and limestones settled in. The late Cretaceous period faulting, which happened approximately 90 to 60 million years ago, caused the initiation of the Lake Torrens Basin and formation of St. Vincent and Spencer Gulfs. Late Cretaceous period also was a great dinosaurs period, but at the same time also the birds became common and modern-day sharks appeared. 45 million years ago, Australia finally separated from Antarctica, and the past 2.5 million years represented the Quaternary period, which consists of Pleistocene and Holocene epochs. The Pleistocene, which was 2.5 million until 10,000 years ago, which is only yesterday, included 20 major ice ages. As part of at least 1,000-kilometer long Rift Valley, the Spencer Gulf was flooded to the present sea level approximately 130,000 years ago. Since then, the sea levels fluctuated or completely disappeared according to the incoming and retreating ice ages until approximately 20,000 years ago. And during that last glacial period, sea level reached 120 to 140 meters below present level. Global temperature rose and ice melt, and this melting commenced just about 18,000 years ago. And this continued rapidly for the next 11,000 years, during which time the sea level rose at an average 10 millimeters per year. In general, the sea levels around Australia stabilized at a level close to the present about 6,500 years ago. And during the flooding, the Australian shorelines experienced just only minimal uplift of the land mass, approximately only by 1 to 2 meters. In Southeast Australia, in our region, the sea reached only slightly above the present level around 6,000 years ago. And the northern end of Spencer Gulf reached 4 meters above present levels and then gradually declined, while at the southern end, where is the Port Lincoln, it was only 2 meters above present.